Hello, I'm Richard Stark. I'm a director in DTLX, company DTLX. We're based in Montrose. And I'm here today to speak about our project that we're running with Angus Council, the Mercury Drone-ports programme, a programme to create Scotland's first drone port network. In fact, it could be the first in the UK or even maybe in the world. So everyone's kind of heard of drones, so why am I here talking about it, and what is the challenge, the thing that we're trying to address? So it's the beyond visual line of sight opportunity. So just now everyone's heard of drones, but the constraint is that we fly drones within 500 metres of the pilot. So everyone's kind of heard about the survey, like all the great opportunities in survey, great opportunities in construction, where they're all used in television and that kind of stuff. But everything is filmed done within 500 metres of the pilot. What we're looking at is the opportunities that exist beyond 500 metres. That's things like multiple drones with one pilot. That's long-range drone deliveries. That's long-range inspection. It's increasing autonomy. And the hurdle and why this doesn't happen just now, it's a regulatory rather than a technology hurdle. We've been flying drones beyond visual line of sight in the military for 20, 30 years. It's a fact that we don't do it. We can't do it here because there's a regulatory constraint. But that constraint's being challenged just now. So if you look at that timeline there, the expectation is that there'll be a number of kind of projects of increasing complexity running through to about the mid-2020s when the government's committed to kind of put the airspace structures in place that will allow this to happen. And then when that happens, then we have an industry that allows beyond visual line of sight with all sorts of opportunities. And what are those opportunities? Well, those opportunities are to do things with less people, so putting less people at risk offshore, because we don't need to send them there. They are about using low carbon, net zero power, so batteries, hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuels. And they're about conducting things in more automated ways, therefore reducing costs. And so there's some figures there. You can kind of choose whatever figures you want. There's loads of them out there, but they're all massive. Yeah, $5 billion of VC capital invested in the last 2 years, a market worth $90 billion by 2030, and an addressable market of over $1 trillion by 2040. You can obviously plus or minus whatever you want on the back of that. But it's not just about the drones. On the right-hand side, there's a whole lot of other things. That's about the electrification of flight. It's autonomy and robotics. It's the data and communications that we're here to speak to about today. It's on-demand mobility and advanced materials. It's not necessarily sort of your traditional steels and that kind of stuff that we're looking to build these things with. So this is kind of what we end up looking like. So it's about aviation. We're now planning, not in 2D, we're not thinking about people driving down roads and going on boats and that kind of stuff. We're thinking up in the air as well. There's a lot of unused, if you like, infrastructure or unused space just above our heads that we will not necessarily fill, but utilise with drones. And then, so while they're flying in the air, we need to make sure that they're controlled. There's communication between the drones, so they know where they're going. The drones in the airplanes, so they know what's happening. The drones on the ground, so that we know how, so we can control them. We then need the energy sector, the energy facilities to charge these things. And then we need systems, security systems, because not all drones are good. So we need some counter-drone systems as well. And there's a market there in terms of, if there's a number of drones there, there's probably multiple numbers of counter-drone systems. And if you see what's happening in Ukraine just now, the most underreported part about that is no doubt the counter-drone systems that are facilitating that. So that's an enabler for things. So they're very, very effective, and it's a huge market. So offshore, because we're obviously up in Aberdeen today, so we're talking offshore, and we're talking about data. So what are we doing? So we're basically flying things out from the shore to the wind farms or the oil and gas platforms. And that's taking deliveries out. We want to take things out there that are initially high, ad hoc but highly important packages, but increasingly sort of heavier goods, and ultimately we could take people. We need to go and survey structures. So some of that stuff is done from flying from the beach out to the facilities, and some of it will be done by putting resident drones out on the facilities or near the facilities. And this sort of box down there that I've got things on, I couldn't draw a boat, I couldn't draw an autonomous vessel like Fugro's one, but I think that's what it kind of looks like. So you've got all sorts of different things, and then you need to get that information, we need to get that back to the beach. So that's like sort of, things like buoys and that kind of stuff. It's using satellites, it's those kind of things to move the information back. And although we're here talking about drones are kind of, they're ubiquitous, they cover all sectors. And through our work that we'll do, and I'll come on to explain about the drone ports, we meet all sorts of people along the way that have got things that are related to us. And this is Mission Autonomy, who will be on the panel. So they have a repair system, a robotic repair system that shares a lot of the kind of same technologies as flying drones would require. And they're involved in repairing wind turbines. So there's not only are they using similar technology, but maybe there's instances there where drones could help maybe place those on the wind turbines, removing people from the equation again. So again, just looking at the kind of opportunities that we're looking at. So we're a drones company. We're building a Droneport network. Like, what are we looking at there? So we look at the offshore opportunity. They're the long-range inspection and surveys, drone deliveries, resident drones. If you look at Scotland, I think I added it up the other night when I put this presentation again, so just under 36 gigawatts installed by the mid-2030s. I kind of took conservative estimates, so you could kind of quiz me on the details behind these, but 48 million of realisable revenue or market from the consenting of offshore wind farms, so the ones that have still to be consented, and the 83 million a year in terms of realisable operations market. I think that second one's probably conservative, the numbers I used. And then what we're looking in the future, we're looking, potentially there could be people moving passengers, so people out to the wind farms, and the kind of rates that people are looking for if you scale the industry by 2040 are equivalent to a taxi cost, so obviously significantly cheaper than a helicopter. And so we're here talking about Mercury Drone-ports. This is our project that we're doing based in Montrose. I think I forgot to say at the beginning, just in case you're not there, Montrose is based halfway between Aberdeen and Dundee on the east coast of Scotland. So we're not far from here. I think Mark, who's on the panel, he got here in about half an hour, I think, at a rate, so we're not too far away. Where effectively what we're doing is the drone industry doesn't exist, we're waiting for these regulations to change. What we're looking to do is build a trials area that will help make that happen. Yeah? So the places you can come and test your technology and scale your operations. We call it the best sort of, one of the people we spoke to suggested it would be like a Silverstone for drones. Yeah? So you want to drive your car fast, you go to Silverstone. Yeah? It's got all the bits there. That's kind of what we're doing for drones. We'll cover the whole of Angus and all the offshore environments, the wind farms, and then ultimately out to the oil and gas platforms. That's the intent, with an airspace structure that allows manned and unmanned aviation to work together and therefore provide the information, the support the regulatory change. And then we aim to do that in Angus, kind of gather the knowledge, make ourselves a hub of expertise and knowledge. And our intent is through our project is to eventually build a centre of excellence. So modeled on something like the decommissioning centre to the north of Aberdeen, where we use the 5 universities that are within 40 miles of us to kind of help develop the technology of the future. So why would you do it in Angus? The reason you would do it in Angus on the top there is we're a rural county, quiet airspace, and we have early commercial use cases to use. Why do you want it to be quiet? You want it to be quiet because people are a bit nervous of drones. Yeah, they think they might get hit with them, or you'll spy on their wife, or you'll do that kind of stuff. We need to, we want to keep the society, we need to keep stakeholders with us. So that's why we want to do it somewhere rural. The quiet airspace, if you look around the country, if you go in the south of England, it's very busy airspace. You go to kind of the middle bit, it's not so bad, but there's still military activity, that kind of stuff. The north of Scotland would seem great, but it's miles away, and it's also full of military air. Angus has got a nice little section that doesn't have particularly busy airspace. And then there's obviously the rural use cases. We're partners with the council, so the council have a number of kind of, we've got rural communities and that kind of stuff out on the west side of the county. We've got farmland. things that would be beneficial to public services to be able to do it cheaper. But then, obviously, we're here talking about kind of energy and that kind of stuff. And when you add it all up, and you add up the wind farms that are put just now and the wind farms that are put down for from ScotWind and then the ones for Intog and that kind of stuff, you find that Angus is actually ground zero in Scotland for offshore wind. So we'll have 14 gigawatts of offshore wind accessible from Angus by mid-2033. But if you look at the distances there, we've got 7.2 gigawatts within 50 kilometres and 4 gigawatts within 100. So, and then we've also got the oil and gas platform. So it's a great place to do it. So our project, I'm just aware of the time. So the project is it's 4 phases. Yeah, we have a first phase, which is a beyond visual line of sight demonstration project. So that's a project that we're doing. So ourselves, Angus Council, a company called Skyports, who will be on our panel and who you'll see their videos of. We're going to fly the drones, and a company called Droneport, who help us with the stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement is like the key thing in terms of working through airspace changes, because the public need to be accepting of what we are doing. So that's both the public on the ground and the public in the air, so the air users. So we've done a lot of work with that, and we're going to run a demonstration project using a kind of existing kind of airspace structure that will allow us to do that. And then we'll invite all of you down, and you'll all come down and see it, and at the end of it, you'll all love drones and you'll want to come along and help us. And if you're a big company, you might pay us some money. Then once we've done that, the second part is to build our airspace structure that allows the manned and unmanned aviation to operate together. That will be novel. That's not something that's been done before. So there's a kind of risk there. That's why the council are involved. You know, we're trying to be first, or at least down amongst the first people there. So we'll be building that hopefully over the next course of this year and into next year. And again, it depends getting through the regulator, checking that we're doing the right thing. That means that hopefully we'll be flying, or people will be coming to fly at some point next year, and either in a trial capacity or potentially some of these early commercial use cases. Once we've done that, we need to make it permanent. If we make it permanent, we can then kind of make long-term plans to make the airspace permanent. Long-term plans is all about the centre of excellence that I talked about earlier on. So we build a kind of university, if you like, in Angus, although we use the other universities to do it. So that's the kind of 4 phases that we're doing. And I thought the thing that we kind of want out of today is we want to tell people that it's happening, and we want to invite you down when we're doing our beyond visual line of sight demo. So the beyond visual line of sight demo is two components. One is flying deliveries for the NHS. We're going to fly from Montrose over to Stracathro on the A90 and down into Dundee. And we may be flying 2 aircraft with 1 pilot there. So that's all kind of novel stuff, not been done. And the second one is that we've been looking at shore-to-ship deliveries. So we'll be doing some little projects around about the wind farms. So Skyports, there's about 3 companies in the UK who can do beyond visual line of sight flight. Skyports are probably the most experienced. They have a kind of global footprint. British startup company, they've been around for about 5 years, so they're kind of real sort of thrusting in that area. They did the flying between Mull and Oban, you may have seen in the paper before, so that's the first video. And then the second video is one that happened, I think, just a couple of weeks ago, about them doing the shore-to-ship deliveries in Singapore Harbour. So, you know, they're cutting-edge stuff. They're the people who are going to be with us in Angus. And so hopefully the video will work.
The sheer advantage in time, accessibility, is key to our remote and rural communities within Argyll and Bute.
The van takes a good half day to do its round, and the drone is here within half an hour.
4 days out of 5 we get a collection at 10 o'clock in the morning, so that means that we have to rush to do everything. We can't always predict when we need urgent blood, so this has made a huge difference.
We're able to move medicines and blood tests with greater frequency, which means we might not have to send people off the island, and we can care for them here, which is where more people on this island would want to be cared for.
In fact, I think the success of what we've managed to achieve, both in the proof of concept work we originally did and now seeing the evidence of this trial, there's interest across the whole of the NHS in Scotland on the use of drones.
Take off.
It's absolutely incredible that we can support the NHS with our drone deliveries in such a crucial time. I think especially the time right now shows that we all need to work towards the same direction, and it's also great to see that technology that we are using and developing every day, including the operations, can help to make healthcare ready for tomorrow. At Skyports, safety is our highest priority. We want to make sure everything we are doing here is safe. We are working very closely with the CAA together to develop this kind of industry, because projects we are kicking off here are the first of the kind. There are no projects like this right now in the UK.
A GP could be at the other side of the island and needs a defibrillator quickly. He needs penicillin really quickly, he hasn't got it with him. A drone delivery could get it to him with the location services that we have within minutes. It's a lifesaver, it's a connector. It opens the possibility you are in a remote place, but really you're not remote.
I think we'd love for this service to be permanent. It does make the running of the practice much easier.
That was the first one, so that's what they'll be doing for NHS Tayside in a couple of months' time. Luck. And the second one, this isn't open to Mull. Sorry, it's my fault. I hadn't changed the thing on the side of the slide. This is from Singapore, so very recently. I'm not sure how long Alastair will kind of tell us. It doesn't have any fancy music to it because it's kind of hot off the press, I think. But effectively, you have Singapore, it's like the busiest harbour in the world. It takes off with whatever deliveries it's got in it from the beach, flies out to the boat. Now, the permissions mean that you can't fly over a boat, so you have to kind of weave round it. So the drone does that itself when it's fixed, but it knows where it's going. And then it kind of goes off and it lands. And it does that, a mix of GPS and visual viewing onto what is a QR code. So that's what they've done there, and that's it. Coming back. Yeah. So this is something, these are things, Singapore's probably one of the furthest ahead countries in the world in terms of drone deliveries. They've got a great commercial use case there with a number of vessels, and they've Skyports have kind of cracked it there, so we might get that in the bay outside Montrose in a few months. So effectively that's it. Thank you very much. We launched our website today. So on the left-hand side, you've got it there, www.mercurydroneport.com. So you can have a look at that. Any questions, there's an email there for the kind of Angus Council, so for the project. But if you want to phone me, I'm there on the right-hand side. And really we'll think through OGV, we're now a kind of member of the community, so we'll kind of publicise it and that, what we're doing, and we want you to come down and have a look. It'll take about an hour of your day when we're doing it, and we'll be there for like 2 or 3 months for us flying, so you can come down and learn more about it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. That was a fantastic presentation, and I'm sure we're all excited to find out more about the drones from our panel. So does our panel want to come up on stage? So we've got some different representatives here today talking about the Mercury Drone-port from some different angles. So do you guys just want to go along and introduce yourselves?
So I'm Sareh, Director Mission Autonomy. So we make lightweight repair systems for infrastructure repair at height. This is basically the main activity we have, and the company's Mission Autonomy. I mean, we are developing solutions for different industries, but we started with wind.
I'm Michael. I'm from the commercial team at Skyports, and as you've seen from all of our kind of great plugging just there, we fly all around the world, drone services, drone delivery, drone surveillance, drone surveying for blue chip companies and governments. We have ongoing beyond visual line of sight projects in the UK and everyday flights in Singapore for the public water board there, and also our ship-to-shore program. And I work on the partnerships and new customers and projects and the strategy and operations of our future work.
Good afternoon. Mark Davidson from Angus Council. So I'm the manager for economic development and Tay-Cities. So developing the Mercury Drone-port, but also looking at other opportunities and improving the growth around Angus Council.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Alastair Skitmore. I'm the Flight Operations Manager at Skyports. So as Michael said, we kind of manage end-to-end drone deliveries, aerial survey and inspection work as well. So nice to be here.
Yeah, I guess you don't need to introduce yourself. Yeah, so the Mercury Drone-port is obviously an economical project for the area of Montrose and Brecon. Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the benefits it'll bring to the area and how it can enhance what's going on there?
Yeah, sure. And in terms of the project itself, it is being funded through the Tay-Cities deal, which is a UK government-funded growth deal. The opportunity for the Mercury Drone-ports has really brought Angus to the forefront, and there's a lot of interest being shown in the skills that can come from drones. And it's not just about flying the drones, it's the other benefits that can come from that as well. So actually making the drones, servicing the drones, other technologies, the data, you know, what happens with the data as well. So there's a real opportunity, and linking that into our further education partners, Dundee and Angus College, Abertay, who are heavily involved in the gaming industry, you can see real opportunities for building skills around this as well. So I think, you know, the drones is the start of the skills work that will come from this as well. So real opportunities for Angus moving forward.
That's great. I don't know, Richard, do you want to expand a bit on the potential that you think the Droneport maybe brings to the people and maybe the opportunities that it could kind of enhance in the area in terms of skills and stuff as well? Obviously, you know a bit more about the skills side in terms of the drone technology and flying.
Yeah, so obviously just now, drones are there's a kind of large number of drone pilots who all use kind of joysticks to fly their drones within 500 meters. That's kind of how most people see it being done. But when you see the Skyports drone and the future, it's not about that. It's about control rooms. It's about using all the IT infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. So a drone pilot today is very different to what a drone pilot will be in the future, and the abilities that the capabilities that those drone pilots in the future will need will be significantly different. They'll be based into they'll be all linked into the software and the abilities to kind of control all that sort of stuff.
That's great. So I guess in terms of the project itself, is this something that you could see being scaled kind of elsewhere within Scotland or the UK, or I guess around the world if it is a successful project?
So obviously we're an economic development programme within Angus. So we're kind of focused on Angus as a project, but what we develop here as a first will have relevance to what other people are doing. And there are other companies looking to build who have considered building drone ports. There are drone companies that require drone ports. I think if you look at where we're based in the northeast of Scotland, the energy part will be an important big piece. The drone ports are going to require low carbon energy to be brought from it that can't necessarily come from the grid, either because of the quantity of it or because of where the drone ports are going to be. And therefore there's a piece round about there that's definitely of interest. And then there's the comms bit where you've got the drones speaking to the drones and the drones speaking to the planes and the planes and the drones speaking to the ground. And when you put it all together, there's a system there, and that system could kind of be humped and dumped elsewhere, either by us or by others who are looking at that into that area. And there's, as I said in the presentation, there's significant investment in there. There's some of the big most of the big aviation companies are involved in this. Most not in our project, but in the industry as a whole. And And then there's also some of the big car companies and a lot of the sort of, people even like Google Wing. So Google, one of Google's companies are kind of involved in it as well, and they're one of the major players. So there's all sorts of people involved.
So it sounds like the technology can be utilised across many different industries and many different areas as well. And we've just seen the video from Skyports about how the NHS are utilising the drones to support their services. So I don't know if Alastair or Michael want to come in to just give us a bit of background about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can take this one. So yeah, we are actually using drones for the NHS, as we saw in the video, basically to improve the robustness of rural medical supply chains. So what we have, particularly in kind of more remote areas of Scotland and areas of rugged or challenging terrain, is we have issues with the NHS getting patients' diagnostic samples to the testing facility to obviously be diagnosed. So what we do is we then provide the kind of end-to-end drone service to not replace their existing supply chain mechanisms, but to complement them using the drones. So the drones are fantastic at providing a kind of ad hoc, on-demand service. So let's say we have a patient that needs to have an emergency blood test taken. Traditionally, this patient would have to have the blood test taken. It would then go by taxi down to the hospitals for testing. This is obviously at great financial cost to the NHS. So what we can do is basically replace that one-off taxi transport with the drone, and we can have the samples down where they need to go in kind of 30 minutes or less, essentially, so that patient gets their answers a little bit quicker.
So I guess if that's kind of the way that the NHS are using it, how do you think the technology could then be transferred and the operations could be transferred into the energy industry to be able to service that industry in a similar way?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think first and foremost, there's massive potential here to create a kind of low carbon aerial supply chain into the offshore environments. Obviously, the drones work in a terrestrial setting. They're fully weatherproof, so they are well suited to the offshore environment inherently. They can fly up to 100 kilometers before needing to be recharged, and they take off and land like a helicopter. So they're very nimble and they can get into these kind of complex assets and land on helidecks and hatches and things like that. So there's massive potential here, basically. So let's say we have a spare part that needs to go out to an asset. It's been left behind and the ship doesn't have it within its inventory. Instead of that ship returning to port or sending a one-off helicopter transport out to bring the part out, we can fly the drone out. Obviously, the clean green electric aircraft can take that part out in kind of sub an hour's time, get it where it needs to go, and that means not only have the client saved a lot of money in terms of using resupply vessels for one-off ad hoc transport, but also there's basically a reduction in the number of people that have to be offshore. So we're taking people out of harm's way and potentially kind of inclement weather, and also it comes at basically a cost saving and environmental saving as well.
So I guess in terms of being able to transport things offshore, Sina, I know you have technology that can work offshore, robotic technology. So do you want to tell us a bit about that? And then I guess you would maybe utilise the drone technology to take that offshore. So if you give us a bit of background about your technology that can support the offshore infrastructure.
Thank you. So our technology enables remote maintenance and repair of infrastructure assets, such as wind turbine, for example. And so, in fact, the first advantage is removing human from extreme work environments, and, in a way that such activities, such as, for example, a rope access repair, can be replaced by autonomous robotic operations, or the opportunity for an operator to interrupt the autonomous process if there is a need for that. There are also other advantages, including better ability to repeat processes, eliminating elements of human error, and to enable a more frequent and more accurate inspection and repair of the, for example, energy infrastructure.
So are there any challenges you see to be able to kind of scale up this technology and make it more widely accessible at the moment?
So I mean, there are challenges in terms of technology readiness, so that should be definitely improved actually over the future years. Also regulatory challenges, standards. So I mean, regulation is one of the most important ones actually. So the robotic technology is progressing very fast. So there are a number of organizations supporting such activities, they should progress at a similar pace to maximize the impact of this technology. And standards also are important. So these organizations together with developers should agree on some standards for designing, for development, and for certifying this equipment. And this can enable a wider range of users can access these facilities in the future. And the robotic technology, from being highly technical, can be more accessible to a wide range of stakeholders.
And if we kind of accept that 10 years ago, none of this technology would have really been in place to be able to do such things, where do you think we'll be in another 10 years from now in terms of the development of the technology and the opportunities that will come with it?
So the future of this. So the future, I think, will be more relevant to robots that can really live in the infrastructure ecosystem. So they can be somehow resident actually in that, and they can be basically be integrated as a solution at the stage of designing and manufacturing those equipments.
And I guess in terms of, say, Skyports, Michael, where do you think Skyports would like to be in 10 years from now, maybe with their technology and the opportunities that will come with that?
Yeah, I think it's a better question actually for my colleagues here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Michael, do you want to answer on Skyports?
I think it's very difficult to see exactly where we're going to go in 10 years. I think what we have seen with the drone market over the past 5 years or so is the commoditization of the, your basic drone users. It used to be that a basic drone pilot would be paid an awful lot of money to take pictures for estate agents, for example. And now estate agents have their own drones and they take their own pictures and they wouldn't pay anybody to take those for them. So we can do so much more with drones. And I think as time passes and as the regulatory environment opens up, there will be commoditization of the things that Alastair and I are working on now, most likely. And Skyports will be working on more challenging problems that aren't commoditized, with much higher barriers to entry from both regulatory and technical perspective. And at the moment, that looks like it will be offshore as we're starting our offshore program in Singapore port.
And I guess today we've spoken about, future energy skills, and the Mercury Drone-port will support the energy industry. So, Mark, do you think there's kind of a place for kind of the region within Angus and Brecon to develop the workforce and support kind of the skills that are going to be needed to help this technology?
Absolutely. I think part of the city deal is the improving skills and the growth within Angus region, but also our partners, Dundee, Fife, Perth. And this is only the beginning. The Centre of Excellence will bring new jobs in. It'll upskill people. It'll look at new technologies as well. So I think there's a real benefit to Angus and the wider. This is only the start in Angus, and if we can expand the Droneport going out locally, regionally, nationally, internationally, the world's available for us to take this forward.
And Richard, I guess being kind of the expert in the drone area, what skills do you think people need to develop to be able to maybe move into this industry, or for anyone who's interested in a career in that area?
I think initially there's definitely there's the technical skills that are things, there's, if you're manufacturing the drones, that's robotics, it's those kind of hands-on skills, the understanding of how those things work. To be a drone pilot is a kind of operational skill. So it's things that are, you're dealing with day-to-day problems, the management of day-to-day problems. So, you might be doing that in the logistics industry. It'll be something similar to kind of what you're doing just now, or what happens just now, but with a kind of much more kind of technical, sort of IT focus, you know, in terms of what we'll be doing. And then there's, you know, there'll be parts of that that will be the regulatory problems, and especially in the short term, there'll be a lot of kind of legal problems. So if you're a lawyer, there's probably quite a good market, especially in the short term, because it is a new industry. It's something that doesn't exist just now. So whatever it is that exists just now is going to change for the drones to be involved.
I think that's really exciting to hear, especially to hear that there is kind of opportunity with transferable skills, maybe people who have skills in certain areas already who can then kind of expand into that area. And you mentioned the restrictions with the beyond visual line of sight regulation. Alastair, I don't know if you want to kind of go into a bit more detail about the potential that could unlock.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we're looking at drones in the kind of offshore environment. They have a relatively limited use case when they can only be flown 500 meters from the pilot, right? That means you have to have a pilot on station with the drone while it's flying. So the way we really unlock the full potential of these aircraft is firstly to make them automated, to allow them to conduct inspections, deliveries, surveys by themselves, and then to be able to apply them in a beyond visual line of sight environment. So this is flying 100 kilometers offshore to deliver something. And the key challenge we have in the UK at the moment is the current regulation says that if you want to fly beyond the line of sight of the pilot, so that's out with the 500 meters, you need to fly in a piece of segregated airspace. So you're closing down a portion of airspace to dedicate to the drone to do its job. This doesn't scale very well because it means we come into conflict sometimes with other airspace users who say, you know, we need to have access to this airspace. So the real challenge in the next kind of 2 to 3 years is basically the industry working in partnership with the Civil Aviation Authority to look at how we integrate drones in with manned aircraft. There are several kind of techniques underway, and the best one we have at the moment that we've identified is what's called the transponder mandatory zone. So this is, instead of blocking airspace, you're creating a portion of kind of sterile airspace where any aircraft that wants to fly in there needs to carry a transponder. That makes it visible to the drone, and it makes the drone visible to them, and it means we can have this kind of natural deconfliction that aircraft already have provided by air traffic control, for example.
So I think kind of bringing that back to, I guess, the energy industry, how important do you think that regulation development would be towards reaching our net zero targets?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely critical, right? We can't roll out the drones efficiently into the offshore environment without having the airspace structures in place. So again, it's a matter of the industry pushing this with the regulator and working in harmony, basically, to solve the challenges that currently exist. And, you know, drones are not often applied in these environments, right? So there are still challenges left unsolved. And it's just about working together as an industry and a regulator to push through a solution.
And Sina, do you want to maybe touch on, you know, as a energy company, do you know what would be the benefits to them in terms of reaching our net zero targets with robotics and drones?
Yeah, so at the moment we have 340,000 wind turbines on the planet. So in order to reach, in order to keep the change in temperature below 2 degrees by 2030, we need to increase this to 1.2 million. Means that we will have like 3.6 million blades, and that probably brings a large volume opportunity for servicing these blades. And yeah, this is where robotics can really help.
And Richard, I guess locally, what kind of benefits do you think it'll bring to companies who are hoping to go into the offshore market around the area?
Well, I think, you know, this is something that the reason that we do it with the council, or the reason that us and the council are working together, is it's because it's something that in the short term necessarily isn't it wouldn't be the investment opportunity that everyone would jump at for this to start with. So what we need to do is we need to build the facility that enables everything to then be built upon it. So it's a catalyst, which is kind of what the government we're investing in terms of their economic development. So they're spending money in terms of things that wouldn't otherwise necessarily go there, to make sure that they were putting the building blocks in place to allow people to come. So someone like Skyports will be able to rock up in Montrose and fly to the wind farms off the coast. at the request of the wind farm owners who are looking for something that's cheaper, greener and safer to do.
Yeah, I think that's really good to hear, and it's good to hear that there's kind of opportunity to develop that in the future. I'm going to open up to questions on the floor, if anyone has any. We'll just wait for Dan to get the mic.
I'm coming.
Yeah, this is working. Andy Rodden, ATZ, a part-time panellist. Just a question, one of the things that hasn't been covered in any of the presentations or discussion is around the design and manufacture of drones, and whether or not, as we get into sort of more bespoke delivery, more bespoke roles as you get further offshore, whether that's an opportunity, both in terms of the manufacturing capability, but also the kind of design and that kind of entrepreneurial design and experimenting with different designs as you go further offshore.
So I think just now the kind of visual line of sight market is about 60% with a Chinese company. They can do them. They can build the most amazing drones and sell them for hardly any money, for significant amounts of money, but not significant sums in terms of what we're talking about. So that kind of market, just like every other kind of bit of electronics, if you like, isn't really open to the UK companies because our costs are higher. When you start moving into difficult, complex environments, you take the North Sea in terms of like the oil and gas industry. We changed how everything was done there because it was more difficult to do it. If you do that here, then there is an opportunity there for drones for people to build the drones, if you like, and the manufacture. And I think earlier on there's an Angus company called Angus 3D printing, and they were here earlier on, and they have they've got all the kind of huge experience of like sort of alternative materials and the ability to print them within the county who we're going to effectively draw upon to do stuff. So there is the ability by using things like the offshore market for our capability to be developed.
Is there any other questions from the audience? Well, I'll say thank you to our panel members, and I look forward to seeing how things develop with the Beyond Visual Line of Sight regulation, and I'll pass over to my colleague Andy, who will be closing the event.
Thanks,